fine.
So I just read over your snippet here that Maria put for me. So we got Webster, and it looks like you're just wanting some reliable obedience when he's outside.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm
Basically,
assuming you guys.
Yeah, I was just gonna say like recall off leash, and then also like just like walking more efficiently. He's a big boy and he pulls a little bit, and it's fine for us, but we want him to be able to be walked by anyone.
Okay. What do you walk him on currently?
We have a harness, and then yeah, it's a normal non-pull harness, and it hooks to his back.
Gotcha. Is it just the recall and walking, or I mean?
I think overall training, he's still a puppy. We did a pretty good job, I think, with just puppy training, but specific things in our apartment, like I kind of want him to have a place that he goes, maybe especially when new people come in.
Yeah. Jumping on guests.
Jumping, yeah. He's not a huge jumper, but when he meets a new person, he likes to like get on their level.
Yeah.
Especially, and then when walking too, he really just gets interested in grabbing like any sticks or twig, like leaves and everything like that.
Anything that moves, he's really interested in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very visually stimulated.
How old is he?
About to be 6 months, the beginning of April.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. She usually puts the age here, so I thought this was like he's big for a 6-month-old. He's 55 pounds.
Yeah. So we're kind of expecting him to be close to like 80, 85 pounds. We want to make sure he's trained well because of that.
For sure, yeah. Especially if he's already at that size. So young.
Yeah. His dad was, I think, somewhere in the 80-ish pounds range, but he's trending at like the higher end, and our vet said probably like 80 to 90. So
yeah, I agree. Anything else about Webster that I should know, or is that pretty much it?
No, he's super sweet, like has a great temperament, and he just gets overexcited about everything, like meeting anybody on the street, any new person, even just when we like walk in from being outside for an hour or something, he gets just super excited. And that's kind of when we start having issues, obviously, is when he jumps and wants to kind of be on our level.
Yeah, I think the impact of kind of COVID circumstances have been felt with him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really have the opportunity. Like there's some family that we see, but he doesn't really get introduced to new people all that often, just because it's hard to do, especially in a controlled setting where it's not someone on the street that we can't have like a controlled environment. And then, other than that, I think he's really sweet. He's really reactive. He does, I think, want to please us. So yeah, that's probably it.
And we do take him to Trebs Park, and he gets along really, really well with other dogs.
We think he's well socialized. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's done daycare a few times. So.
Yeah, I saw here. I was actually going to ask you how'd you hear about us, but Trebs, I've trained a lot of dogs there.
Yeah. Luna's the dog name.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, I think.
Luna.
Yeah. She told us about
you, and then it was also like an English cream golden. We were enamored like the first time.
Oh, sure, Winnie.
Yeah, the first time we brought Webster to the park and saw how well behaved Winnie was at like 10 months. So we had talked to them about you, and I think it's just necessary. We see ourselves living in the city for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to be in public spaces and having that recall ability, I think, is like the number one thing. Correct. I don't want him playing. Like, we want to have a second line of defense from him running into the street.
Correct. So anything else?
I think that's it.
I think that's it.
Okay, so I'm assuming that you're aware of how I train then, because they're all trained on e-collar.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I'll explain all that stuff. So there's like 3 primary or big popular methods of training: positive reinforcement, prong collar or gentle leader, and then remote collar. So positive reinforcement is great for puppies under 6 months. It's great for establishing a foundation, sit, stay down. It's like kindergarten stuff.
Yeah.
But at 6 months is when I start dogs on remote collar, because in my opinion, at that age, they're capable of learning to an adult level. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually train puppies even younger on remote collar. It's the owner's comfort with using an e-collar on a puppy.
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
because it's just how they think of it.
Mhm.
So like she's just wrapping up her program. We have a 4.5-month-old. She's 5.5 months, but we had her 4.5 months. We had her for a month. She's a little Doberman puppy. She's fully off leash trained now.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
All that's like, she's amazing. Like, she's great.
That's
She's
awesome.
a great puppy.
Mhm.
So it's doable. It's just a little bit more nuanced with puppies, and then just
Right.
Mhm.
people how they feel about it, right? But at 6 months, definitely is when I tell everybody, if you're gonna do or invest any time and money into training, I personally just jump to remote collar,
Yeah.
Mhm.
because it's the only tool, in my opinion, that gets you off leash control.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So positive reinforcement falls short because around 6 months is when puppies um, go like, okay, like this was great, but now there's the world,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
exactly.
Squirrels, rabbits, people, dogs, all that stuff, right? So now the value is off, right? Because if he's like,
Mhm.
hey, I'm playing with my friends and I only play with my friends once a day, the value of that is greater than the food that you have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
With prong or gentle leader, they're great tools, but they're restricted to on leash, so to speak.
Mhm.
Because once you remove the leash, your dog knows, like, oh, now you can't make me do things,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? And with remote collar, on or off leash, I have the capacity or the ability to reinforce things, even if the dog decides not to comply.
Mhm.
Okay, because dogs are animals, and they can make choices and stuff. And you had mentioned something about he wants to please you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very popular human thing. Dogs don't. If you wanted to
Okay. All right.
because dogs are self-serving,
Yeah.
Right.
right? If he's like, hey, this is more rewarding, he's gonna opt for that, right? If he
Sure.
really wanted to please you, he'd be opting for everything that makes you happy,
Mhm.
right?
Sure.
So there's a lot of kind of thoughts, or like how do you, things that you'll see or hear, like you can't teach a old dog new tricks, or stuff
Yeah.
like that, sayings, right, that are just they're not true. It's just how humans think, and they like to think certain things. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Not to burst your bubble there, but
That's
realistically.
okay.
It's really all right. We can take it.
So, are you familiar with what an e-collar is?
Yeah. We actually have already purchased one. So we got like the Dogtra one that you had recommended on your website.
Or which model?
I'd have to look. It was the larger one. I mean, obviously he's a big dog. Whatever he fit into being above like the 35 pounds, I think.
Okay, because there's two collars you would technically be able to use. Because I think I did a video on it, so maybe that's what you're talking about. So there's one called the Dogtra 2300. That's meant for 70 pounds and under.
Okay.
And there's the Dogtra Black Edition, which is meant for 70 pounds and over.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
So
I'd have
you'll
to
want
look.
to check. Okay.
Okay.
Especially if you bought it recently. Did you just purchase it recently?
Yeah, like maybe last week or something.
Okay. So that you can, if it's the wrong model, so that you can exchange it, because that's very
Yeah.
important. Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
So there is a number of things that we want to factor in when we're e-collar training. And because people tend to go by what they've seen from their dog,
Mhm.
and I go by what they haven't seen. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Mhm.
So like, you would think, well, golden, soft, like friendly, shouldn't need a lot of power. I've had a couple of pretty tough Goldens, completely friendly, social, all that stuff, very sweet, but very physically tough.
Mm.
Okay. So
Okay.
we can't determine a dog's toughness according to their sweetness. I have some Goldens that are very sensitive for sure. And then I have some that are just very resilient. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell people, opt for the higher power one, especially if he's going to be over 70 pounds, right? If we're expecting 80 to 85, then for sure. Because then
Okay.
once he grows into it, you're good. Like, he might look a little silly for a little bit with the big collar on his neck, but once he's a full grown dog, that's the collar that you would need, and you're not having to invest another few $100s into a new
Got
collar.
it.
Okay.
Okay.
So, because we have the size of the dog, weight wise, we have temperament. Dogs are naturally physical animals because they bite each other, so they're already physically tough. Also, he's going to have that longer, thicker coat as a golden. And also, we want to account for stress levels. Okay. So, stress levels would be, you're at the park, everybody's having their dogs play, and then some kid randomly blows up a firework. Okay, a lot of dogs are scared of fireworks, and you won't know until the day he's around the firework, right?
Sure.
Is now for a dog, they hear that and they go, "What the hell was that?" And then they book it because the first response is fight or flight, right? And if you don't, if they don't know where it is or where it's coming from, they're going to want to run. So now stress levels are up, right? So now he's running. He's a big dog. He's got a thick coat of fur. He's under stress. He's 85 pounds, right? Is I'm thinking, in case of an emergency, am I going to have enough output to override all that stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there's always there's no guarantees, obviously, with stuff like that, but you're going to have a higher chance if you have the appropriate collar. You
Sure.
know, and like this happened, if you may have met Melissa with Nash.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
like a white.
Yeah.
He's large. You'll meet him sometime at Treps.
Sure. Sure.
There was Nash. There's Roxy, who's like a black and white pitty that comes with Naringa to Treps. And they both have had instances where they had an emergency situation and they needed to jack up the collar to override. Okay,
Got it.
so how I term it. So they can give you an idea of, like, of how that works. But what we would do here is, it sounds like you've already got a great foundation of like obedience laid in with like food stuff that you've done, right?
Yeah, we've done a lot of positivity training, like you mentioned, like up until this point, and our same thing, like now we're finding that it's just not doing it now.
Correct.
Yeah.
And what's missing is simply the consequence for not performing something.
Yeah.
Because for a dog, if it's like, "Hey, sit," and he's like, "Not right now, I'm doing this,"
Exactly.
and you're like, "Well, you're not going to get this then," and he's like, "That's not a consequence to a dog,"
Yeah.
He's not even really caring. He's not thinking like, "Oh man, like I'm missing out on this, piece of chicken here." So the reason why I opt for this tool is because dogs are physical animals. They bite each other, they nip each other in play, as a form of correction, as a form of affection. They're very mouth based, and that's essentially what the e-collar kind of helps us replicate. I call it a bite on the button, which is also like if you look at a prong collar, the spiky looking collar, it's designed to mimic a dog bite.
Yep.
So it's not that you would say sit to Webster, and if he didn't perform it, that you would just like press the button.
Yeah.
We're gonna reteach him things. Okay. So he knows how to do them with food, but we need to teach him how to do it with pressure. Okay. So pressure would be the e-collar going off, a muscle contraction, and we find a level that is low enough that the dog isn't like yelping and rolling around in discomfort, but high enough that it's motivating them to want to uh, get it to go away. Okay, because no one likes to be uncomfortable. If you're in an uncomfortable situation, your instinct is to figure out a way to remove yourself or to get it to stop, right? So it's the same thing with the e-collar. It's a physical type of discomfort. So have you ever pulled up on the collar and pushed down on Webster's butt to make him sit?
Yeah.
Yes.
I have.
That's pressure.
Okay.
That's physical pressure, because there's different types. There's emotional pressure, there's physical pressure, there's leash pressure, prong pressure, remote pressure, spatial pressure. Like if the dog gets up and you walk into them, the dog sits, putting pressure on them. And then once they give you what you want, you step away, right?
Yeah.
So there's different types of pressure, and we essentially layer it in over all the stuff that you want to teach, or use it to teach stuff that he hasn't learned. Okay. So the first thing that we always teach is heel, which is the leash walking.
Yep.
I teach a very strict form of heel. I take 5 steps, the dog takes 5 steps. I take 3 steps, the dog takes 3 steps. I stop, the dog automatically sits. I don't care what the environment is, and this is with a completely slack leash, up to no leash, depending on how well trained the dog, the owner wants their dog to be. Okay. The reason why we teach heel first is, one, it's typically one of the major things that people want to fix is leash pulling.
Yeah.
2, if I have a dog that has dog reactivity on leash, most of, like 70% of the time, it'll fix that problem. And 3, if you put an e-collar on a dog and you don't say anything and you press the button, you would see the dog move, okay, because they're wanting to get away from it. So we use a moving behavior of heel to help the dog express the need to move, but at the same time, teach them how the pressure turns on and how it turns off. Okay. So the first class is almost always heel. I teach it to you. You go practice for a week, you come back, how'd it go? Jesse, he's doing great. He's doing all this stuff. We don't, we can walk past dogs or whatever, and he's not pulling, he's not lunging. I go, great. Now we're going to work on the second half of heel. Okay. You go practice that for a week. You come back. How he doing? He's doing really well. Then we work on recall. Okay. So I teach heel first because it's super important. It has to happen. And then I jump into recall right away because recall takes the longest to teach. Okay. Heel is the fastest because you walk your dog, or most people walk their dog at least 3 times a day.
Yep.
So that's going to be the quickest progress. Recall, and if you guys are in your trebs, it's going to be easier for you. But recall, people typically have to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? They got to go to the park. They got to put their dog on a long leash, and then they got to use distractions like squirrels and rabbits and dogs and people or whatever. And then, because in order to make a functional and reliable recall, you have to practice with that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay? So with the e-collar, right away, once you learn how to do recall, I tell everybody, start going with your dog to the park, go to the lakefront, let your dog be a dog, let him chase stuff, and use that as your opportunity to call him back. Because when you're going to call your dog, he's going to be doing something. He's going to be playing.
Yeah.
He's going to be chasing things. He might be running off or running towards something dangerous. Like he's going to be moving, right? So I don't do sit, stay type stuff, call the dog. I do go outside, use your environment and practice, because that's what's going to make it applicable even when he's playing with dogs at the dog park.
Yeah.
Okay? That's typically 2 classes. And then the place command, which is the one you mentioned earlier, the go here, don't move type of thing, is typically a class to teach. And then that one will progress depending on how much time you put into it.
Okay.
So one thing I've noticed is that the stuff that people can do inside very easily, they tend to put off. Okay. Because they're like, oh, I can practice this anytime.
Right.
And then fast forward to the day that they need it and they're trying to do it, and then the dog's not doing well. Okay.
Yeah.
That's more so owner based. And again, I just tell people, once you learn the place command, you're eating dinner, use it. Having guests come over, use it. Gonna watch TV for a couple hours, use it. And you use it a whole lot. And then when he gets really good, then you use it as you need it. Okay.
Yeah.
Which leaves like a 6th class. So the way I have 6, 9, and 12-week programs. You sound like you're in the 6th class range.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think just like looking through the website, I think that's what we felt comfortable with too.
That's what I would put you at, because I don't teach stuff that you're not going to need or use.
And he's very much going to be a pet for his entire life. Like I don't need him to be like able to assist or hunt or anything like that. Like he's going to be a pet first, but we just want to make sure that he's a well-behaved pet and safe pet. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So with the 6 classes, we would cover what I call the trifecta. We got walking on a leash, we have come when I call you, and then we have don't move for a little bit. Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
So 2 on heel, 2 on recall, 1 on place, which leaves the 6th class, which we can use as an overview, or we can use it to teach something else, that if you want, because there's 6 commands: sit, stay, down, come, place, heel, that are meant to be functional. They're meant for you to go do things with your dog. I think these things like sit and down have become tricks or cute things that our dogs do to get a treat, but they're meant to be functional.
Right.
If I go to a restaurant and tell my dog down, she's not going to move for 2 hours while I have dinner or whatever, right? Or if I say place, my dog's going to go and not bombard the person at the door with like cuddles and licks and stuff like that, unless right?
Yeah.
So these things are meant to be applicable. So with the 6th class, we can either review stuff, make sure that we're remembering everything correctly, or if everything's going really well and he's progressing nicely and you just want to cover a couple of more obedience things, whatever, because it's pretty simple. I've kind of, and he's already got a foundation as it is. So what you're probably going to see is once you layer in pressure, all of a sudden, like all the stuff that he normally wouldn't listen to because he's too distracted, he's going to start listening to. Okay, because it's not that he doesn't know how to do them. It's just there's no consequence for him not doing them.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
I think we've experienced that with like the older he's gotten, the more independent he's become. And another thing that we've struggled with is like, strangely enough, he's not an overly food motivated golden retriever. Sometimes he cares about treats, but most of the time he doesn't.
Sure.
So like that's also a change. And so I think that further necessitated, and I think we're completely comfortable with the concept of an e-collar.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just as you said, like stimuli, like there's nowhere where we can go that's devoid of stimuli that we can slowly introduce those. Like we go to the park, there's other dogs, there's kids, there's cars, there's everything. We can't control it. So, that further necessitated the need.
Yeah, it's that's the one thing with like positive only is they'll say like keep the dog below threshold.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah. How do we do
You
that?
walk out your door, you're already above threshold, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I train so that people can right off the bat just walk out their door and just start doing stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of e-collar because it's since we're so button oriented now, right, with their phones and everything like that, is it's more intuitive for a person to use a remote.
Yeah.
It's very much logic based. So like, let's say, you're working in an environment where there's not a lot of stimuli. So the collar goes 0 to 127 in increments of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 127. So like, let's say in one environment, bland environment, nothing going on, his number is 25 and he's great. He's listening, he's responding well, he's awesome, right? But then all of a sudden 10 dogs come into play, right? And all of a sudden 25 is not doing anything because he's so excited, he's too stimulated or whatever, 35, 45, 47, like I can really fine tune it and then adjust it to the scenario.
Yeah.
And even like, let's say again, like a emergency type scenario, just knowing how to, I teach people how to improvise with their tool. Like just like we don't even look at the remotes ourselves, like myself and my trainers, because the dog tells us what's too high and what's too low. Because if he's not listening, it's too low, and if he's yelping, we're too high. So then we just got to find that middle ground.
Okay.
Sure.
Questions about any of this stuff so far?
Mine is like general concept, and I know you had alluded to this, and in your experience, this gives me comfort to my question. But your experience, like a dog isn't sensitive, you can't relate their behavior to their sensitivity. What is the like introduction to like stop the dog from getting overwhelmed and like overly fearful?
Oh, I see. So
of the shock specifically is what I'm
right. So when we apply the collar, we start low, we work our way up.
okay.
So typically dogs feel around 10 to 15. So we usually start around 10 to 15 and we'll go up in like increments of 5. And I have and I'll send you videos prior to your lesson to watch to prep you. You wouldn't do anything with the videos, you would just watch them so that when we jump into training, it's you already have a concept, okay?
Okay.
Is we start low, 15, let's say there's no response, 20, no response, 25, no response, 30, and we just keep going up. So eventually we get a response from him.
Okay.
If it's too much of a response, we dip it back down and then we work our way back up, okay? Until I find a number that motivates him, but isn't like spooking him, right?
Got it.
But then there's also the personality type. So e-collar is a stressor because it's an aversive, okay? And e-collar pulls out the real dog, so to speak. So like I've had dogs that look completely stable, okay? And the owner started remote collar, and then on the first lesson, the dog looks really anxious, okay? And the owner goes, oh, did the collar make the dog anxious? I go, no. I'm like, your dog was actually already anxious. That's their stress response, right? So if we look at humans, right? Some people get anxious when they get under stress, right? Some people get nervous. Some people get scared. Some people just don't care, right? That's our stress response. So the collar is not making the dog something they're not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if this does happen, because it can, and I wouldn't know until we start working, right?
Sure.
Is most people's instinct is to lay off.
Right.
Okay. If we lay off, Webster learns if I do this, this goes away.
Got it.
What I do is I work the dog through it, and that's actually how we build confidence. Okay. And I need to do a video on this. Like I had a case where Vinny, who goes to Trebs. He's he's a Bernedoodle. He's an
actually, yeah.
The silver and gray looking guy, short and long. Yeah, Vinny.
Yeah.
Okay. So Vinny's a great example. Vinny's first class, super anxious dog. Okay. And they did their homework. And they have had 6 to 7 classes. They're doing 9. And we're spacing out the last 2 because they've done really well with Vinny. The first class, man, Vinny was super anxious.
Okay.
By the 7th class, because they continued with it and they kept training and stuff, very good.
Okay.
Very good. Because when you can't put them under stress and then not work them through it, because you're bringing them to this threshold and you're exposing them, and then they get overwhelmed, and then you lay off and you're teaching them become overwhelmed as opposed to working them through it. Okay.
That makes sense.
So if we see that, don't be worried, it's exposure. So have you guys ever been skydiving?
Yes.
Yeah, we both have. Yeah.
Okay. How many times?
Just once. Yeah.
Did you just jump right out the airplane?
Yeah, I went last, and I got to watch a lot of people fall out of the airplane, and then like when but probably to your point, like getting to the threshold was a nerve-wracking point.
Yeah.
Sure. And then, like, let's say you went skydiving once a month, right? You probably get over it quicker.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
if you went once a week, real fast.
Even faster. Yeah.
Right. Once a day, like, so multiple times a day, right? So it's a stressor, but the more you expose yourself to it, the faster you get over it.
Sure.
Right? So it's the same thing with dogs. So for me, when we remote train dogs, we're very generous with the e-collar, and we use every opportunity to use it because we want the dogs to get over it as quickly as possible. But also, people tend to give the dog the opportunity to avoid the correction, and we use every opportunity to apply a correction. Okay. And that's why our dogs don't question our commands. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you're like, Vinny, come. I'm not Vinny. Webster.
Yeah.
Webster, come. Webster. And then you remote them, right? You're teaching them to ignore you 3 times.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah.
And where that becomes a problem is now we want to put this emergency scenario. Webster's running towards the street, and he's been built to delay and ignore 3 recalls before
Yeah.
again. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
So when it comes to like the whole stress thing, normal. Some dogs are great, take it, no problem. And other dogs, you'll see some anxiety or nervousness and stuff. And I teach you how to work through it and in the practice with them. And walking is a great way to expose dogs and again alleviate stress. So kind of like me, one of my a way for me to decompress is walk my dogs. Like I like walking. So same thing for the dog. The e-collar is kind of building stress, but the walking is alleviating the stress. So it kind of balances out. And that's why also the heel command is so imperative to teach in the e-collar, because it does both of those things.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna ask, is the collar something that he will wear all the time, like also indoors, outdoors, naps, everything? Or is it something that we take off at some point?
Yeah, when you only use it when you need it. Okay.
When needed. Okay.
So for an example, do you guys drive?
Yes. Yeah.
Have you been on the expressway? You go the speed limit.
Yeah.
I do. She doesn't.
So most people do not go the speed limit.
Yeah.
I think we can agree to that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But we see a squad car, what happens?
Slow down. Yeah.
So that's called opportunistic behavior. All animals do it. It's part of survival instinct. So like if there's a pond of water and let's say there's like an alligator in there and the animals know, they won't drink the water. Okay. They see the alligator leave, everybody comes to drink water because now they're like, here's our opportunity. Alligator comes back, everybody leaves. Okay. So same thing for dogs. Think of the e-collar as a cop on a collar. When it's present, he's going to behave better. He's going to listen and all that stuff. And when you remove it, he might push things a bit. Okay.
Got it.
Now there's a number of reasons why here, because people get dogs for companionship. Okay. Is that actually works against you when it comes to control. Okay. So as an employer, I can tell my employees what to do. Right. But they don't tell me what to do because that's the relationship. But I don't tell my friends what to do. My friends don't tell me what to do. Friends, right? So with Webster here, you're not just like buddies or companions, but you're also trying to do authority figure, right? So if you're more buddy with Webster, it makes it harder for him to take you serious as an authority. Does that make sense? So it's like that's why cops, like, cops can be nice, but they're not being buddy with everybody. Right. Because they're meant to enforce laws. Otherwise, if they're buddy with everybody, nobody will take them serious.
Right.
Right. So all this means is, you can have both. It's just you have to make sure that if Webster, like let's say for whatever reason, he's not listening and you have to go to 127 to make him listen in a particular situation, let's say with recall, and you go there and he goes, oh shit, and he runs back to you.
Yeah.
You've just taught him like, look, yes, I love you and I cuddle with you and I give you treats, but at the same time, you need to return to me when I call you, right? We can bridge that gap with the e-collar, but usually what I tell people is, is not to not give their dog affection, but is to think about where they're giving dog affections. Okay, like I make my dogs work for everything. Okay, so if they do a really good job of like not moving off the bed and stuff, I give them praise, right? So they're working for it as opposed to giving it to them just because they're cute and fluffy.
Yeah.
So, but in regards to when you need it in the house, if he's a great dog, you don't need it. If guests are going to come over, he's going to be stimulated. You'd have it on him. Some clients will have it on them during the time that people are over. Some clients, they'll have it on for like the first 15 minutes, and when the dog chills out, they remove it.
Yeah.
When you're outside, you can account for a lot of things. Like I said, like a random firework is the most common thing that happens to people.
Yeah.
Where their dogs take off. And it's happened to me twice. My dog was actually on a leash both times because my pit is very much anxious with fireworks. She hates fireworks.
Okay.
And I was walking them through Logan Square, no e-collars because it was just going to be an on-leash walk. And 2 times in like August, October, somebody set up a firework. And then my pit was like, get me the hell out of here, right? Very anxious. And I was like, this sucks. So I had to walk 2 miles back with my dog pulling me. But, and then I was like kicking myself because I was like, and you always tell people to have their collar on, but I wasn't planning to have my dogs off leash. So I was like, I want a collar.
Right.
So like stuff like that does happen. And if like he ends up being a dog that's not scared of fireworks, that's great. It just makes life a little bit easier. But just you can't account for things in life that happen randomly.
Right.
I've even had dogs just randomly take off on a dog owner just because of dog. You know, their logic and our logic is not the same.
Sure.
But the owner was able to get the dog back because they had the remote on them.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Other questions?
I think I'm good. Do you have
That's all I have right now.
Yeah.
I think we're probably I don't know, we've seen the final product a few times. So like the method, it's like I believe in it. I've already seen multiple final products. I like the final product. You don't have to really there's not really much of a selling for you on us. Like we've seen it. We like it. So
So what we would do here is Maria would reach out to you.
Okay.
Now after 2020, it's just been a huge influx of like new clients and like consultation requests and stuff. So how soon she can get you on board, it depends on your availability. Typically, so usually I'm most people are 9 to 5. So my schedule is usually evenings and weekends. And typically like during the day, I'm looking here at my calendar. Most people aren't booking, but I think now, like even now, my days are looking to get booked as well. So she'll figure out where she can place you. So she'll take your calendar and she'll look at my calendar and find a spot that works well for everybody. I'm going to be transitioning back to Oz Park for training because that's what we did last year in 2020. Because I used to do strictly home to home where I would travel to my clients.
Okay.
And COVID happened and people were like, don't come into our house. So I was like, all right, well, let's train at Oz Park. And it's great because it's very distracting.
Right.
Dogs, people, squirrels, rabbits, skateboarders, rollerbladers, strollers, kids, like everything is there. So it's a nice distracting environment. We'll probably be there in a couple of weeks too.
Okay.
But she'll get all that stuff figured out. So don't worry if if there's a little bit of a delay of getting started or anything like that. Because if anything, we'll be back to right now. I'm working at my facility still, so we'll be back working to outside again, which is even better.
And we live in Lincoln Park, obviously close to like walking distance from Trebs. So Oz Park is almost like preferable for us. It's something that's really easy for us to get to. And so he's not 6 months yet. And I submitted the request because I figured you were going to be busy. Wanted to make sure that we were scheduling far enough out. Does it make sense to not start or even like think about starting? I don't know availability until he reaches that 6 month mark.
How old is he now?
I think
He's going to be 6 months on
in
April 8th.
2
so
weeks.
2 weeks.
Oh, for a couple of weeks. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
go ahead and get that process started. I mean, because like I said, you can start sooner.
Okay.
Okay.
And he's close enough to 6 months that, and I also go by like the size of the dog. So if it's like a 30 to 35 pound dog by 6 months, or like close to that, I'll tell people you can go and just start.
Okay.
So we're good.
But yeah, I think if you're booking ahead in 2 weeks when he is 6 months, that puts you probably at around when like there would be spots opening up.
Great.
Perfect.
So you can book ahead of, you can book for a future date. So you know you're locked in and you're not having to worry about if you're gonna have to wait another couple of weeks, right? Once you're ready
Yeah.
to book or whatever, so you can get that process started. And then again, the collar I'd recommend for him, which in yours, if you look at the box or whatever,
Yeah, we'll double check it.
Yeah. If you give me the name again, I'll jot it down.
it's Dogtra Black Edition.
And there's no like numbers associated with that.
1900, but it's
1900,
there's multiple 1900 systems, so I just go by the nickname.
Got it. Okay.
All right. Yeah, we will look at that. I can't honestly remember the one that we ordered, but we'll be able to return. I don't think.
Yeah, just would you get like on Amazon?
Yeah.
Yeah. Should be an easy exchange. But definitely the Black Edition is the one he would need. They last for years. I've had mine 8 years, no issues.
Oh, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah, the most common issue is the battery does give out because it's a rechargeable lithium battery. But you can purchase the battery separately, or you can send them to Dogtra, and Dogtra will replace the battery for you and then send it back.
Oh, great.
Great.
Okay.
Perfect.
Anything else?
I guess you mentioned this, but do you like to do all of the sessions like
In
every
sequence.
week, like once a
Yeah,
week?
it's every week for an hour, once a week.
Okay.
If you were doing like a longer program like Vinny, because we covered all the stuff within the first 6 classes, and then they were really good about practicing, that they advanced really quickly with Vinny. So then I told them to space out their last couple of classes
Got it.
so they could press his level of obedience even further. So like my other clients that are doing like 9 to 12 week programs, like towards the end, we tend to space them out because you need time to make mistakes and screw up and stuff.
Sure.
But in the beginning, if it's just a 6 week program, we just do them straight through.
Okay.
Because of what we're teaching needs to be sequential.
Right.
If you went longer, then we'd most likely push the last classes out, and space them out so that you get more out of the lessons.
Got it.
Sounds good.
One question that I actually do have, we were talking with a friend who has, I think like a 4-year-old golden doodle, and they had gotten her trained, and they had a kid, and then they kind of got lax, and now the dog like does okay, but like not great. What does tune-ups look like? Or does it just completely depend on how, how bad the regression was?
So if it's simple obedience, the answer is almost always raise the number.
Okay.
Okay, because so typically my spring, summer, and fall clients will do great. And then in the wintertime, they get lax. And then in the springtime, I get emails.
Okay.
And they'll say, Jesse, we need a tune up. And I was like, what's your number? And they'll say like 25. And I'll go raise it to 45 and let me know what happens.
Okay.
Almost always fixes the problem.
Okay.
Because it's like riding a bike. He didn't forget. It's just the importance of it has dipped because it's not been practiced regularly. So then once you correct them at a higher number, he's like, oh yeah, I remember this now. Right.
Got it.
Because that's the thing about, because I've trained dogs for like rescues, and I'll give the dog back to the rescue and I'll say, don't worry about the training. Like it's going to go to shit, like leave whatever. When the dog is at a home, let me know and I'll come in and I'll address it. Within 15 minutes, all the stuff the dog has learned will come back.
Really? Okay.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's why I just do e-collar. It's not because I'm lazy. It's because it's the most efficient and effective way of training, and it gets me off leash control. And the consistency of the results that I get with my clients, pending they're doing the homework, is always high.
Yeah.
So if that ever happened, yes, you can always purchase a individual lesson. And then you would just say like, hey, this is where we need help. Otherwise, if you taught everything and everything was going great, and then maybe something happened and you take a month break or something, and you're trying to reinforce stuff, and you email me, the first thing I'm going to tell you is just raise your number.
Got it. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. Anything else?
No.
That's it. Excited.
So Maria will reach out to you. If you know if you're good to go, you could just turn around and email her and say like, hey, Maria, we want to do the 6-week. Because what I do is I email her and I give like the model that I recommended and then the programs that we discussed. But if you know what you want and you're already getting your collar and stuff, you can just let her know we're getting the collar. We already know what it is, and we want the 6-week program, and she'll right away put you in queue for getting you booked for April 8th, whatever.
Great.
Perfect.
That sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds great. We look forward to it.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, guys. If you have any other questions, let us know, and then otherwise, Maria will get in touch with you. Okay.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care. Bye.